Joining us now is Democratic Congresswoman Angie Craig of Minnesota. Thanks for being with us. I know it's been a heck of a last few weeks for you and your state, as Minnesota's been at the heart of what is now becoming a groundswell of people from both sides of the aisle speaking out and saying how this administration is behaving in Minnesota is not okay. I know you voted against funding DHS. You're now calling for your Senate colleagues to do the same. What specific changes are needed?
Well, there's no way in hell that Senate Democrats can support this administration's agenda. So as long as that DHS bill is in the rest of what's called a minibus, it's a package of bills, Senate Democrats should not lift one finger to help advance the Trump agenda. What we're seeing in Minnesota has just been terrorizing our state and our community.
Can this become a bipartisan movement? We do see more Republican members calling for an independent probe into the death of Alex Pretty, both in the House and in the Senate. The Homeland Security Committee chairs are calling for testimony from high-ranking DHS officials. Who do you want to hear from exactly, and what are your top questions?
Well, I sure wish I was a U.S. Senator and got to question Kristi Noem right now. I helped introduce articles of impeachment against her just a couple of weeks ago, and that was before the killing of Alex Pretty on Saturday morning here in Minnesota. You know who I want to hear from? I want to hear from my Republican colleagues from Minnesota. They have seen firsthand ICE terrorizing Black and brown people, people of color in Minnesota. They have seen law enforcement step up at a press conference and call out ICE for its tactics. I want to see my Minnesota Republican colleagues step up and finally call out the atrocities that are being committed here in Minnesota by the federal government.
The Washington Post reports that House Democrats are looking to open an investigation into DH Secretary Kristi Noem, laying the groundwork for this push to impeach her. And you mentioned you've introduced those impeachment articles against Noem. Are you finding any bipartisan support?
Well, I think that I'm still looking for some spines and patriots in the Republican Party in the U.S. Congress. Certainly, we're seeing more reach out and say, let's have an independent investigation, which, of course, Democrats have called for from the start. Independent investigation that includes very experienced local and state officials so that that level of transparency is there and Minnesotans can believe whatever the results are. So I hope my Republican colleagues would take a look at the tactics being deployed by Kristi Noem's ICE, by Donald Trump's ICE. And at a minimum, I mean, it's great that Greg Bovino is leaving Minnesota, but at the end of the day, the culture inside ICE right now is so broken, and that culture starts from the top. Kristi Noem is at the top of that agency.
So if Noem were gone, though, do you think it would change much in terms of the administration's approach? And as you point out, is Noem really the architect of the approach, or is she just the public face of it?
Well, if Kristi Noem leaves, it means that the American public has completely turned against Donald Trump's ICE and the Department of Homeland Security. And I think from that perspective, ultimately, that is our goal, to have ICE go back to enforcement of the southern border, to have them actually enforce immigration in our communities in a way that works with local and state authorities, not the out-of-control culture that has emerged under Kristi Noem's ICE. So I think it would send a strong signal throughout the ranks of immigration control that this ICE, Trump's ICE, it has to be dismantled. The culture has to change. But you're right to have a whole lot of confidence that this administration is going to change course. We continue every day in Minnesota to prepare for the worst and to keep working toward the best.
We know Governor Tim Walz had this conversation with President Trump yesterday, and he says that the president pledged to do things differently with the immigration surge in Minneapolis. This, as we've been reporting, Tom Homan is set to take over operations on the ground from Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino. What does that signal to you? Do you expect immediate changes?
Well, the change we need here is the de-escalation and the withdrawal of ICE in Minnesota. The fact that we have over 3,000 agents here and the police force in our largest city is only 600 officers really tells you everything you need to know about the overkill, literally, in our communities. So, great that Bovino is leaving. He has been really a very poor leader, but we'll see if Tom Homan actually wants to de-escalate the situation in Minnesota, because that's going to mean sitting down with Governor Walz, with Mayor Frey, who have shown very strong leadership, and having an actual conversation about the tactics being used by ICE and de-escalating the situation by withdrawing the surge from Minnesota completely.
Congresswoman Angie Craig, thank you for joining us during this challenging time for your state. We appreciate your time today.